Will you tell me something about the story of Hush Hush? I've seen it, but it won't open in England for a few months. And it would be nice if we...
Well, it actually, it is a film one shouldn't tell the story of, truly. You can say about it that it is the story of a woman who has lived for many, many years all alone in her family house, you know. And she's a legend in the village. Some say she's insane, some say she isn't. And in her youth, her lover was murdered. And of course, that is basically the basis of the story. But actually, what happens in the story truly would be very complicated to tell, and would hurt people seeing it very, very much.
Well,
knowing too much about the plot, you know.
It's a different type of film from Baby Jane.
Oh, completely. It's a completely different type of film, and I think a very good film, Charlotte. I think it's very well directed, and I actually think it's the best thing Mr. Ulrich ever did. Mr. Haviland is charming, great in it. I think we're very lucky to have her. I think that it was a wonderful cast. I think, you know, Moorhead.
This upload is made by the concluding chapter of Crawford.
May I tell you very honestly, because I admire you very much, but I thought this was one of your best performances in at least 10 years.
It's a beautiful part, and I thank you. It's a really beautiful part.
It is.
Really beautiful part, and I think he directed it beautifully. He really directed it.
Well, much more care, more detail, more control.
Yes, he really did take care of every detail, I must say. I agree with you. I was very impressed with it. As a whole.
I think, if I may say, that I think Mr. Haviland acting in this also contributed to your performance.
Oh, it was heaven we had her. She was very utterly believable in it.
Yes.
It was just wonderful we had her.
In a sense, it's the culmination of the admiration the two of you have had for a long time.
Yes, it had been so long since we worked together. It was wonderful fun. Yes. And she was such a good sport about, you know, coming over so quickly. I think she came over within, 5 or 6 days? And, you know, got ready immediately. And then was just, she just was wonderful about it. It was a very awkward thing to have to do, you know, replace somebody and come into a cast that's all been together for months.
Yes,
and we owed her a lot for doing that for us. Not many would have. They'd have waited much longer and taken much more time. Although we did give a rehearsal. She had a rehearsal period Ulrich gave her when she first came.
I felt that you control yourself from doing things you sometimes do if either the direction isn't very strong or there's nobody to really give you good guidance. Because I think because of your respect for Mr. Haviland, you acted more strongly from the inside than I've seen you do.
No, because I would love to give Olivia that compliment. You see, I did 3/4 of mine without her at all.
That's true.
Being there. So if there was anything, that phrase is due me at all, it's a combination of Mr. Ulrich and me, because truly, Charlotte was set by the time she ever arrived. And I had never played any of the scenes with Joan, you see. We had never gotten to start with our scenes.
You'd never played together?
So I didn't have to redo mine at all. I was very fortunate. Wow. Mr. Cotton had to redo his, and Miss Moorhead had to redo many. But we had not started our scenes. So I was very lucky.
Well, the whole thing is, I hope it's a hit.
But the scenes with her were just fine, because she was just... She's a fine actress, Olivia. She really is.
This upload is made by the concluding chapter of Crawford.
But there's a great, great vogue today for horror films. And they seem to be in a pattern of them. There's nothing you seem to be able to do about it.
No.
If anybody does anything of any kind, such as The Letter, or anybody dies or anything, it becomes a horror film. It's too bad.
Are you not worried that because, actually, in a way, you brought back the vogue of the sort of Grand Guignol type
Well, you see, Jane
film.
really wasn't either. You know, Jane was really a character study of two women. You know, that she was so fiendish a person, supposedly, to Blanche. But it still wasn't a horror film. A horror film, to me, is nothing. It never anything to do with people.
Well, Grand Guignol, then.
Yes. Well, it wasn't really, because this is really what happened to their lives, you know. I think they have great areas of reality. They both have great areas of reality as regards to people.
Well,
those to me aren't horror films, you know, they really aren't. But anything today that's eccentric like that is advertised as a horror film.
Yes, it is.
You know, unfortunately.
This upload is made by the concluding chapter of Crawford.
How, can you talk about the problems that were with Miss Crawford and why finally she
Well,
left?
she just was ill. You know, she was ill. She was in the hospital. And she came back to work once and had to go back to the hospital again. And the insurance company finally decided they just couldn't wait any longer. We waited, well, really 3 months.
Yeah, there was no personal rivalry involved.
Oh, no, she was ill. No, the insurance company were the people that it was up to them to decide whether we recast it or not. We had to sit and wait for them. Oh, no, nothing
Oh, no,
like that.
because, I mean, this is sort of story in bits and excerpts. And
No, she was very ill, very ill. Oh, the insurance companies don't fool around, you know.
No.
If they say somebody has to recast because it costs them a lot of money to recast. So when they made up their minds and they told Mr. Ulrich to go ahead and recast her.
This upload is made by the concluding chapter of Crawford.
Let me take you to something horrible for a minute.
Yeah.
It's called Where Love Has Gone. May I tell you again, I thought there was a lot of fun in that, and almost, well, the best thing was when you went on, your photo just sort of glared out.
Well, it was just, to me, not a very good film. You know, and basically, Mrs. Hayden is a woman, for instance, who would never have had gray hair. Mrs. Hayden would have used Clairol to a dying day. Had been, you know, and I tested her with this wonderful kind of chic bob, chic bob, sort of a blonde that you knew was dyed. It was wonderful. But my misfortune was, and this is not being catty, that Miss Hayward was not as young as she should have been for the other part.
No.
So it just didn't work. So on to my dear little head went the dear little old grandmother wig. So that was one basic disappointment with Mrs. Hayden, because actually, had they done what they promised me, which was to write more of Mrs. Hayden into it, it could have been a very good part.
Yes.
It was an interesting story. But it was required that Miss Hayward and I have a real comeuppance.
Yes.
And the film lacked because of it. And she flatly refused to have the scene written.
This upload is made by the concluding chapter of Crawford.
Well, there's another problem. I think you said, and this is very right, that there was no great big scene between the two of you.
No, it's
Everybody
criminal.
expected it.
You have to if you have female co-stars, for heaven's sake. You've got to have
You
a
with
scene.
Susan Hayward, because for years she's been called the bargain basement Bette Davis. This was her chance to see if
Well,
she
she
could
wouldn't do it.
steal some diamonds.
It made no sense, the story. And what maddens you is it was a magnificent book.
Yes.
And every character was delineated just brilliantly. And then when you don't have it in the script, you get mad, you know?
Yeah. Well, I see now
So
why
it's
all these things can
sad.
happen. I understand. I can see why Miss Hayward wouldn't. You know,
Well, she just wouldn't.
she just wouldn't. Did you see her film, incidentally, where she replayed
No, I
your
didn't see it.
Dark Victory?
I didn't see it, no.
Because
I didn't see it, so.
in a way, I thought she was very courageous. She invited comparison, first of all, by playing one of your most famous roles, and then she goes and plays with you. And maybe not so much amongst the average public who'd go and see Susan Hayward and Bette Davis, but amongst anybody who followed your career at all, and thus would know about hers. The interest to think of, you know,
But it was a shame that she
avoided it.
avoided playing Valerie, because she's very able to play Valerie the way she should have been played. And she could have given really a great performance, but she absolutely wouldn't do it.
This upload is made by the concluding chapter of Crawford.
I liked your crack on Paramount, because for years, right back to 20s, Paramount has said, we produce the greatest films. Every film that comes out is a Paramount masterpiece. And this wonderful line, which you were quoted as saying, since they've already called it a masterpiece, I don't see why I should come back and do any retakes on it.
Oh, it's full of retake. This is impossible. Couldn't be done.
It wasn't in the end anyway.
No, the courts, we were in court 3 times. The courts never made me do it. See, what they tried to do was injunct me from making Charlotte. Until they tried to get the court to say, you cannot shoot Charlotte until you do the ending we want.
Yeah.
Well, the courts wouldn't do it. And they finally went to the Superior Court, and they said, no, we won't. Until there's a trial of this, till we hear both sides of this fully, we will not injunct Miss Davis, and she doesn't have to do it. And by then it got to be too late, and it wouldn't have made that much difference. It would have just been ridiculous. And Mrs. Hayden could no more go mad. She was far too sure of herself. And anyway, the character's going mad. You've got to see little signs of it a little bit earlier. I don't just sit here as a fairly intelligent woman and suddenly go mad. You would notice things I was doing, you'd say, God, this woman is crazy. Then if I went really crazy, you would say, well, I thought there was something funny about it, but Mrs. Hayden, my dear, was the most organized creature that ever walked this earth. And should have been.
Yeah.
But she really actually made the most sense to anybody at all.
This upload is made by the concluding chapter of Crawford.
Well, the only tragedy of the growing older as far as Hollywood is concerned is that they are very apt in Hollywood, and God knows I played many of the parts years ago when I was younger than the actress who played it in New York, let's say. They have a great penchant for having even a part, say, well, Virginia Woolf is example. I'm exactly the right age for Virginia Woolf, and exactly right. I'm exactly the way Mr. Albee wrote Virginia Woolf. The story cannot be told as the play is told without a woman my age after a 25-year marriage. That is the play.
Yeah.
And Hollywood will not cast you.
They
will give it to Miss Taylor. And that is the only mess you run into. Because you don't run into many parts that are suitable to you anyway if you're smart. And don't try to do all the things and play kids, which is terribly bad professionally.
But you pulled your career at a time when Hollywood say either you go
yes,
straight
I'm
into
still in a vague kind of way making it, but it does become increasingly heartbreaking when a great part like that does come on that you are right for, that they will not cast you for.
Yes.
And that, to me, is a crime. I think it's a crime that Miss Andrews, for instance, did not do My Fair Lady. I think this is sinful to have dubbing, you know.
Yes.
And of course, it's kind of fun because now Miss Andrews is one of the biggest hits in the world, and Mary Poppins, so there was no point at all. She's got, but she should be allowed to have played that. She really should have, because she was magnificent in it. But that is one of the tragedies of Hollywood. It has always been so. And I was allowed to have parts of other women for many, many years, so I mustn't be too bitter about it now when I don't get them. If Miss Hagen were going to play it from the New York Theater, I would have no feeling at all. I'd say, great, you've earned the right to do it on the stage. But when it isn't Miss Hagen and it is a woman 25 years younger, it makes you angry because it also is going to ruin the play.
Yeah. How about Maxine? Maxine Falk in
yes.
Play?
Case in point, I should have played that on the screen.
You wanted to?
Oh, I'd have loved to have played it on the screen. God. But they do not do it.
No.
They always give it to younger people.
This upload is made by the concluding chapter of Crawford.
You know, you get very discouraged actually over a thing like Virginia Woolf, and you say, what is the use? And I don't know what I will do. I really don't.
But you are.
I'll probably have to mix it up again.
Back and forth.
Unless something comes along, yes. Because I'm a woman who basically must work some of the time with a whole bunch of young people to bring up. So I can't sit all my life.
You are, of course.
And of course, if the series sells, I shall be very excited because it's a fun thing.
What's it about?
Well, it's a Margot Channing kind of woman who's an interior decorator. It's fun and amusing and chic and great. And if they find sponsors for this, I with great pleasure will go to work on this. I will adore it. I will start shooting about June.
You could still play Margot Channing, of course. You know, Margot Channing comes back.
Well, but this is very chic, and she's that kind of a woman, exactly. And can be great fun, this series, I think, and right for me.
Yeah.
So if that goes, fine. That'll be fine. Because I'm terribly anxious for somebody to take All About Eve and make a musical of it. I'm just dying for them to do this. Because it would be the most natural musical in the whole world.
This is still your favorite part. Is this your
Well, it's one of my favorites. Oh, yes, it's one of my favorite movies. It's just a good movie.
This video is brought to you by the concluding chapter of Crawford, a comprehensive research guide to Joan Crawford. www.theconcludingchapterofcrawford.com. Join us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.